From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
The drought is gone, but prices have plummeted.
The price that we saw in the futures market was actually below the cost of production.
What farmers in one state saw in 2024 and what they'd like to see this year, as the ag community honors a peanut farmer who became president. A look back on the world beginnings of Jimmy Carter, as the cattle market of 2025 picks up where 2024 left off.
Cattle are going quick.
Could we see more records broken this year? Right now on AgDay.
AgDay is brought to you by Pioneer. Put Pioneer brand corn's exclusive genetics on your team. Win with higher yields and industry-leading traits. Pioneer brand corn. Your best year starts here.
Good morning. I'm Michelle. Year Clinton has the day off. The cattle market ended 2024 on a strong note, with Fed cash cattle trade higher for the year. And right now it's continuing to grind towards the record high set back in July of 24, while cash feeders finished 2024 hitting record highs. The 5 market average Fed price for 50 weeks through mid-December was $186.66 per hundredweight, up 6% year over year and up 29% over 2022 Fed prices. The 2024 average price is 21% higher than the previous high price in 2014. Now, the highest weekly Fed price was $197.09 in early July, but last week the 5-area weighted average price was $194.81, so creeping up on that. The South traded mostly $192, up a buck, with late sales up to $195. The North was even higher.
We saw some Saturday trade. I mean, it was $195 in the north for the week, and then Friday happened. We closed. We all went home to find out Saturday there was some trade. Had some $197 to some majors, some $197.50 to some regionals. Some of these majors, the cattle are going quick. You buy them last week, they got to go this week, so it's still that numbers are tight.
He tells me cash feeders have been red hot in the country, and that's keeping a lid on herd rebuilding and heifer retention.
When you're looking at some of these prices on some of these heifer calves, bringing it north of $2,000 now. There was some for $2,150, per head. That's a big paycheck. It's hard not to load them up and send them off the place and, take that profit right now, because if you elect to keep her, or if you're electing to buy her to try to breed her, okay, so you're looking at, just estimated cost of about $1,000 per year on top of what you buy the heifer for. So you're looking at $3,000.
2024 ends with a record for cash feeders. Data from Oklahoma State economist Darrell Peel shows combined Oklahoma auction prices for 500-pound steers averaged $320.14, with the highest weekly price of $360.99 in early December. The average price for 2024 was up nearly 19% over last year and exceeded the record high in 2015 by 21%. The average price for 800-pound steers for 2024 was at $247.43. Now that's up 15% over last year and the previous record by 22%. From Georgia peanut farmer to president, Jimmy Carter passed away Sunday at the age of 100. As Brian Abel tells us, the one-term president became known for his post-presidential service.
From Georgia peanut farmer to president, Jimmy Carter's legacy spans 100 years. Leaders around the world remembering his remarkable life.
Jill and I lost a dear friend. What I find extraordinary about Jimmy Carter, though, is that millions of people all around the world, all over the world, feel they lost a friend as well.
Carter grew up in Plains, Georgia. He became governor and was elected president in 1976 and lost re-election to Republican Ronald Reagan in 1980. But it was his life post-presidency that laid the bricks for his legacy. He is remembered as a passionate humanitarian and a pioneer of human rights. He and his wife, Rosalind, founded the Carter Center to carry out their mission.
He was one of the first to turn his back on dictators who were not supporting human rights.
In 2002, Carter was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his decades of work to establish peaceful solutions to international conflicts. He also spent decades volunteering for Habitat for Humanity.
A great global statesperson, and the world's going to honor him, but he also was down home all about the state of Georgia.
Outside the Carter Presidential Center, mourners leaving flowers and notes. people in his hometown of Plains remembering him.
President Carter has been an international influence, but some of his greatest influence, he and Mrs. Carter's, has been right here in Plains, Georgia.
In Plains, Georgia, Brian Abel reporting for AgDay.
Ag groups reacting to the news of former President Carter's passing. American Farm Bureau Federation President Zipu Duval saying, quote, "We appreciate the perspective his rural roots brought to the White House and his post-presidential work to fight food insecurity and teach modern farming practices to developing countries. We express our condolences to his family while celebrating the life of a man dedicated to public service," end quote. In the American Peanut Council saying, quote, "President Jimmy Carter's remarkable journey from a humble peanut farmer to a global statesman and environmental advocate is a testament to his enduring legacy of leadership and service. His profound connection to the peanut industry and his lifelong dedication to stewardship and sustainability continue to inspire generations," end quote. One person is dead and 2 others were injured after a fire at a Tyson Foods plant in southwest Georgia. It happened at a poultry plant in Camilla, Georgia. It's reported a boiler exploded, causing a wall to fall on the cab of an 18-wheel truck parked outside the plant. The wife of the truck driver, who was asleep inside the truck, was killed. Officials report the fire burned for 3 hours. Now, the plant is the largest employer in Mitchell County. It produces primarily chicken nuggets and fillets for restaurants. There's still no evidence of avian flu passing from person to person, but health experts warn that mutations of the virus could make it more likely to spread between humans. As we told you earlier this week, the CDC says genetic sampling from a patient in Louisiana recently hospitalized with the U.S.'s first severe case of H5N1 shows the virus likely mutated in the person, potentially allowing for it to be more easily spread to humans. But there's no evidence the virus has passed to anyone else.
It's only a matter of time before one mutation by chance will be able to be spread from human to human. We don't know when that will be, but certainly the train has already left the station.
You'll remember the virus was first detected as a strain of highly pathogenic avian influenza in cattle at 3 dairies in Texas and 1 in Kansas last March. The CDC has emphasized the risk to the general public has not changed and remains low. The new year is bringing big changes weather-wise, especially when it comes to temperatures. Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht has a look ahead.
That's what we've been alluding to going into the middle and late January time period. We're expecting that cold air to really take hold. Very similar to a pattern that we had last year that we really couldn't get into. We had short stints of extreme cold. This is going to be colder than average for a longer period of time, but I'm not expecting a record-breaking cold air for a number of days. So I'll show you what I mean. This is very early in that transition, in that pattern shift. Friday and into Saturday. See a ridge of high pressure and our next low pressure system starting to open things up. And what this is going to do, it's going to create ridging within the jet stream to allow a pocket of cold air to drop down from Canada down here into the United States. And that's why we're expecting that cold air to stick around with that blocking pattern longer rather than a short extreme burst of cold air. That being said, Saturday and into Sunday, the surface low pressure system takes a dive to the south, bringing with it snow, mix, possibly some ice, and rain down to the southern part of the United States. And check this out. Earlier this week, the National Weather Service in Salt Lake City, SLC, shared this video, a time lapse of a fog bank over Salt Lake City. Check that out.
Could we see some price improvement as we start the new year of trading? We'll take a look coming up in Markets Now. And later, we'll look back on the 2024 growing year in Louisiana and what producers will be looking for this year in the country. Southwest Illinois is the next part of the country that will soon be producing sustainable aviation fuel. The state's governor announcing an $820 million investment in SAF from Avena Clean Hydrogen and the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. The governor's office saying the project plan for Southwest Illinois will strengthen the state's clean energy economy, create 150 new full-time jobs, along with cutting aviation carbon emissions by up to 25 million metric tons each year. Now, it says the facility will use existing rail and pipelines to create the fuel to supply major Midwest airports, including Chicago O'Hare's International Airport. Joining us with markets, Vince Spytaker with Farmers Trading Company. And let's talk about the corn market first, Vince, because we've recently had a sharp breakout to 6-month highs. The funds are long. Do we keep going higher, do you think? What will it take?
I think it's possible, Michelle, that we do. One of the key things that I've watched in here, you look at the March and the May contract, they've been able to get above and close above their October highs. July on back has not. And I think that's important that we do that. Coming into 2025, what do? We end the year. We have to remember that whatever we do between Christmas and New Year's in the grain markets will usually continue at least for that first week or so. So it'll be an interesting start to the year, I think.
Yeah, how much upside do you think there is until we get farmers selling, especially when you get after the first of the year and you start getting some of that income averaging?
I think you have to look at that. Probably 465 to 470 in March, maybe that 480 level in July. Can you do more than that? Well, if demand stays there and you keep going, maybe so. And if you get funds continue to buy, you might. But I think you got to get continued good news, and you may pull back and you just got to see what happens. But from a farmer standpoint, 3 months ago, you would have killed to sell at this price. Now you're going to question whether you do it. I think you got to reward the market a little bit.
What about soybeans? Everybody has been so bearish soybeans. The funds have been short in that market because of the big South American crop. Do you think it's justified?
I think it was justified. The real question is, did we do what we need to do on the downside? So an interesting note, if we go back prior to the last bull market when we could never get above 950 on the weekly chart on beans, you watch that. If you mark 918 to 945, you spend very little time between there in lead month beans. We've came down to that 945 region a couple of times and held. And I think that's telling us we have significant support. Not that we can't go below that depending on what happens in the world.
Let's hope those contract lows can hold. Thanks so much, Vince Spytaker, Farmers Trading Company. We'll have more Ag Day coming up. Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rook on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
I want to start off looking at that wind gusts forecast. So earlier we talked about that overall pattern shifting colder for an extended period of time. How we get there will come with a system this weekend. So we start with the wind forecast, the wind gust forecast. This is 10 a.m. On Friday, and you can see the surface pressure bringing in those stronger winds initially back out here towards parts of Montana, down into parts of Midland, Odessa, Texas, and into New Mexico. It's going to Friday night and Saturday and Sunday. The wind gust forecast kind of paints the picture of that system coming together Saturday night and into Sunday with some of the stronger wind gusts up into the Dakotas and down here to the south. This will come with some snow, rain, possibly some ice, as well as something in between Saturday night and into Sunday as the system works from the west to the east. Now, in terms of the precipitation forecast, what's giving this system this weekend a lot more rainfall, snowfall, ice potential is that it's going to be tracking more to the south and picking up that Gulf moisture. So as I put this into motion, forecast the next 7 days, you'll see more green light up, but also the oranges and the yellow, which is your inch and your 2 inches, back up here into the Midwest and down here to the south, having to do with that system picking up some of that Gulf Coast moisture. Now, as that occurs with the colder air in place, we're looking at the dividing line between snow to the north. You got mix in between, that includes parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, and then rain down to the south. Now, in the long term, we'll see that system take shape Friday morning, Friday afternoon, Friday night, and move across the United States this weekend. And it is going to get some help from the upper levels of the jet stream. This is a jet stream on Saturday, ridging across 2/3 of the United States, but this little dip down here to the south, that is that supported energy that's going to get that what's called that mid-latitude cyclone going down at the surface. Look how far south this line goes. So we're tracking out the potential for snowfall, the potential for rain, the potential for a mix. The farther south this digs, the more moisture it is able to pick up from the Gulf of Mexico before exiting up here to the northeast. There's that next ridge that's going to set up a blocking pattern and a reinforcing shot of colder air in the middle of January. We'll start off with Stanford, California. You got some evening showers, high around 60 degrees, low of 46. Sawmill, Arkansas, sunny, high around 58, low of about 42. Spang, Minnesota, partly cloudy, low of 8 below.
A new contract deadline is looming for port workers on the East and Gulf Coast as talks have stalled. As U.S. Meat Export Federation President and CEO Dan Hallstrom explains, another work stoppage could have significant impacts on red meat exports. That's if a new agreement isn't reached by Wednesday, January 15th. He says for every week of a potential shutdown, it would be a loss in excess of $100 million just when it comes to beef and pork exports. And he says the lack of agreement may already be impacting trade.
We already have exporters, I'm sure, diverting cargo or planning to divert cargo. Ocean carriers are anticipating that. So we already have surcharges in place, and probably there will be more in place between now and the 15th of January. And a lot of our cargo is refrigerated. So there's also the very real possibility that prior to January 15th, a lot of these ports may stop accepting refrigerated cargo just because of the uncertainty around the contract.
Hallstrom says in the end, one of the biggest things is the ability of the U.S. to have a reputation as a reliable supplier. And he says the possibility of a shutdown puts that at risk. Once again, the Corporate Transparency Act is on hold. You'll remember the 2021 laws designed to unmask shell companies and combat illegal financial flows. It required millions of farmers and ranchers to file paperwork and disclose ownership information with the federal government. But a federal appeals court vacated a stay on a national injunction, postponing the January 1st reporting deadline for businesses required to disclose the information to the U.S. Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. Now, the law was criticized by business groups, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association calling it an overreaching mandate. It still faces constitutional challenges in multiple courts. Still ahead, a look back at the 2024 growing season in one state that has seen it all. We zero in on Louisiana and what producers are expecting in 2025 next. In 2023, Louisiana producers had to overcome an exceptional drought. Last year, crop yields returned to average or above average levels. But as LSU Ag Center correspondent Craig Gautreaux tells us, now prices for nearly all commodities have fallen.
There has been a sense of normalcy in agricultural fields this year in Louisiana as crop yields return to average to above average levels. Farmers did not have to deal with a historic drought like last year, but prices have plummeted for commodities, with some of them falling below what it costs to produce them.
The price that we saw in the futures market was actually below the cost of production. So it was a major challenge for growers to work through as they set their marketing plans for corn.
While most major row crops saw price reductions in the 10 to 20% range, soybeans saw an even bigger dive.
Soybeans, that's the big crop in our state, over 1 million acres we harvested this year, and that's a crop that we've seen their prices lose almost 24% year over year.
Many U.S. agricultural commodities are exported, so prices are influenced and set by global markets. Other countries experiencing good crop yields have led to this pressure on prices.
We've also seen larger crops being produced in South America last year. They're on track to produce a larger crop this year across the board. So that's going to increase the competitiveness that we're seeing in the global export market.
DiLiberto says 2025 will be another tight year for Louisiana producers. He believes it is imperative that a new farm bill gets passed soon.
Well, I think we really need an updated farm bill that can provide meaningful and adequate risk protection given the current state of the farm economy now.
Sugarcane production remains strong, but even sugar producers saw their price sink nearly 5%. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gotro reporting.
Thanks so much, Craig. And that's all the time we have for this morning. Thanks for watching. For all of us here at AgDay, I'm Michelle Ruck. Have yourself a great day.